Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov's chess channel and welcome to our best chess games of all time series. So in this series we're following the best chess games that have been ever played in chess history, and today I wanted to show you really an immortal chess game played by the legendary Bobby FIscher against Lhamsuren, Myagmarsuren. He was a Mongolian master from the last century, and the game was played in 1967, and this game really shows the power of Bobby FIscher, because Bobby FIscher, among many world champions, was one of the best attackers, of course, but he had also a great positional understanding. That's why I think if we would make a comparison, for instance, who is better, Fischer or Tal, Fischer was so much better than Tal, I think, because Tal basically relied only on his attack, but Bobby FIscher really had also some great positional understanding, because maybe Bobby FIscher, Kasparov and Magnus Carlsen are these top three masters of all times. They have really this flexible possibility to play chess. They can also be in attack on the attacking side, but they're also good defenders. They're also good in positional reading of particular openings and particular positions. So these three guys, of course, are the best chess players in history, and today I wanted to show you really the importance of recognizing this so-called quiet move in chess. The quiet move is sort of a move in which you have maybe a good attacking formation, but you cannot include this last piece into the attack, because your opponent has, of course, also some counterplay possibilities. Then it's really important to remaneuver the piece, try to find the best activity, the new best activity of the piece. And the quiet move is really a cool move, because with that move you're also preventing your opponent's ideas to counterplay you. And in this game we'll see one of the best quiet moves in chess history, and it was played, of course, by the legendary Bobby. So let's check out the game. We have e4 by Bobby FIscher, the e6, the French defense, by Myagmarsuren. And here I've been asked now many times, Jozarov, what do you recommend as an opening to play against the French defense? What is the best continuation? When I face the French defense, I like to play this move d3, because now basically Bobby FIscher is going into an opening that he's familiar with. He doesn't want to go into this common maybe win-over attack of the French defense, into this closed setups of the French defense, into really two positional battles. He plays the move d3 with the preparation to go into King's Indian with knight to f3, g3, bishop to g2, maybe knight from b to d2, and similar ideas. So basically Bobby FIscher wanted to go into his favorite opening, as he was a King's Indian player as black. So d3, after the move d5, we have knight to d2, and whatever black if black takes now, for instance, d takes e4, we can simply recapture with the pawn, and we don't risk the trades of queens on the d file, so still we have a compact position in the center. So in the game, knight to f6 was played, g3, c5, bishop to g2, and now knight to c6, still common theory, and now knight to f3. Simply healthy developing moves. And in the game, Myagmarsuren played the move bishop to a7, castling and castling. And here is already this critical moment of the game, because Bobby FIscher played this move e5, and it's really a necessary move, because here we have now a change of dynamics in the center, because now the position in the center is dynamic. After the move e5, the position in the center is static. When the position is static, then you should only search the direction of the attack. The direction of the attack is sometimes really hard to recognize, but when the position is static in the center, then basically it's easy to find the direction of the attacks. Now, after the move e5, of course, Bobby FIscher has occupied the 5th rank. He has a space advantage in the center, but he has also occupied this king side, because his advanced pawn is on the king side, so that's why his attack will be coordinated on the king side. On the other hand, you see with this directed pawn structure, black will coordinate the attack on the queen side. And whenever we have this block pawn structure in the center, it's all about tempos, because although the kings are on the same side, still we will have this opposite side attack game, in which the players will attack different sides, and in that particular types of games you should really be fast, don't lose any tempos, so it will be a battle of tempos. Now after the move knight to d7, we have rook to e1, and now b5. You see Myagmarsuren plays immediately on the queen side. Very important idea, I think, to make progress here. Queen to c7 seems like it wins a pawn, but it's, I think, not a problem here because we can play knight to b3. Black can take maybe the pawn on e5, but now knight takes e5, knight takes e5, and bishop to f4. Pinning the knight, black would be forced to play something like f6, and now c4, I think, is a good choice because what black doesn't want to do is the position to get open because the queen is a little bit overloaded with the defense of this knight on e5, so black would probably here proceed with the move d4, but here I think we can simply take out the knight. Bishop takes e5, after f takes e5, queen to e2, and we would simply attack these new two weaknesses in black's position. And after something like bishop to d6, I think we have the possibility to place our bishop on a very, very active square with the possibility to play queen to h5, attacking this h7, and still, of course, black can defend with some potential g6 move. But if we evaluate this piece activity, this bishop is blocked out by its own pawns. The same is happening also to this light square bishop, and this knight is a flexible piece. Of course, this knight will always find new squares on the board, new active squares, so that's why here it wouldn't be a good continuation, I think, for black. So in the game after rook to e1, as I said, Myagmarsuren played the active move b5, not going chasing this e5 weakness. So if white, for instance, loses this pawn without compensation, white would lose the game, I'm sure, but here b5 is perfectly fine by black. So knight to f1 played by Bobby FIscher, finally liberating this dark square bishop, and the idea is, of course, to place the bishop on f4, even further supporting our main advantage in the position, and it's our powerful pawn on e5. So b4, h4 by Bobby FIscher. We want, of course, to expand on that side where we have the advantage. A potential a3 move is not so powerful because we may get annoyed by this pawn on b4, but black can simply take, and the problem is that you cannot recapture with the rook. That's the main problem. You would be forced to take out with the pawn, and I think in this position black would be faster with some potential c4, d4 moves immediately. For instance, if you take with the rook here, that would be really dangerous because black would have this discover attack by the bishop on the rook, so you would have to retreat. But now we can simply play knight to b6, even further supporting our pawn, and this knight, I think, will be too much to handle here for white because black has already cracked the position in the center and has a better activity, I think, of pieces. So that's why in the game, as said, here Bobby FIscher didn't react with the move a3. He made progress on the king side with the move h4. So in the game a5, and now bishop to f4, we have a4, and now finally a3, because Black has lost some tempos. Black didn't challenge the center immediately after b takes a3. Now b takes a3 is okay because we have here also block pawn structure. What we want to do is solve the position here because here something could happen here with these two pawns. The mistake that black can make here is, for instance, if black plays the move b3, then we can simply pass through with the move c3, and now, although there is still some tension in the center with these two pawns, black cannot make progress here because we have this 2 versus 2 parallel setup of pawns. I want you to memorize this because you should sometimes, when you try to defend, place your pieces like place your pawns like this, because the problem now for black is if black plays the move d4, we can simply play c4. The same happens if black play c4, then we can play d4, and the position on the queen side would be fixed. All of those positional problems will be solved, and basically the whole game won't be transposed on the king side where we have the advantage because we have, as I said, this main advanced pawn on e5. So you see, after the move a3, b3 wasn't played in the game. Myagmarsuren realized that he has to make some kind of progress here. He played simply b takes a3, and now b takes a3, knight to f5, with the preparation to finally crack the position with the move c4. In the game knight to e3, we have bishop to a6, and now very important move bishop to h3, played by Bobby FIscher, because he attacks here this pawn chain. This pawn chain is, of course, best to break in the center, so it means we should try some attacks in the center, and the center of the pawn chain is the pawn on e6, so maybe something can happen. And you see also the importance of this move, what kind of tactics here Bobby FIscher has prepared. In the game d4, again knight to f1, and now knight to b6 played by Myagmarsuren, and now knight to g5. What probably Bobby FIscher was hoping for, that maybe Myagmarsuren will kick away the knight and even further weaken the pawn structure. Then we could play something like knight to e4, maybe aiming this d6 square. But in the game, knight to d5, which is a correct move by Myagmarsuren, forcing Bobby FIscher to retreat. Bishop to d2, and now bishop takes g5. Here bishop takes g5, so Myagmarsuren didn't want to further weaken the pawn structure with some potential h6 moves. This could be really deadly, because the problem in black's position is that we don't have, except these pawns, we don't have any more minor piece defenders in front of the king. So this knight was kicked away with this move e5. We don't have, maybe we would love to have maybe here a bishop or something that at least protecting the king somehow. So that's why here bishop takes g5 played by Myagmarsuren, kicking away this annoying knight, and now bishop takes g5, queen to d7, and now queen to h5 played by Bobby FIscher, with preparing some really dangerous threats, because there is this problem. If you play h6 immediately, then you get crushed immediately, because we can simply take bishop takes h6, g takes h6, queen takes h6, and the only move that prolongs the game is the move f5 here, because you want to have, of course, good defenders in front of the king. The queen has really made some progress here on the king side. So if you play a passive move like bishop to b7, then you get rook to e4 with the preparation to play something like rook to g4, and this could be really deadly. So that's why the only move that prolongs the game is the move f5. But here you see now the importance of this move bishop to h3. We would have the possibility to play e takes f6, after rook takes f6, queen takes f6, knight takes, bishop takes e6. You have to play queen to f7, and white can simply take here, bishop takes f7, king takes f7, and okay, black has two minor pieces for the rook, but these three extra pawns on the king side, I think they're unstoppable, and this is, I think, a completely winning endgame for white. So realizing these problems, after the move queen to h5, Myagmarsuren played the move rook to c8, trying to create some breathing space. Maybe if the position gets too dangerous, maybe we can try to escape with the king. And Bobby FIscher simply continued with the move knight to d2, very important move to improve the position of the piece, with potential knight to e4 outpost, then knight to d6, or knight to f6 is also interesting. You saw the problems around black's king. Here knight to c3 was played, bishop to f6. If you take, let's see again what happens if you take g takes f6, then we have e takes f6. The main threat is to play here something like queen to g5 and checkmate on g7. If you try to escape immediately with king to f8 here, or if you try to play queen to d6 to cover the dark squares, this is very tricky, because you get queen to g5, you have to escape with the king to f8. That's seems that black can escape, but the problem is after queen to g7 and king to e8, again this bishop comes very actively into the game with the very cool bishop sacrifice. Bishop takes e6, after f takes e6, now f7 wins the game immediately, because you cannot prevent anymore white from promotion, because you can play something like maybe king to e7, but this promotion comes with a check by this queen, so that's why it's very dangerous. So you see, instead of this queen to d6 idea, black could try the move king to h8, but now bishop to f5 is also very tricky, or we could try immediately to play some queen to h6 ideas, or even the possibilities to play knight to e4 with some potential knight to g5 move here, maybe knight to f3, preparing knight to g5, attacking the pawn on h7. Black would be forced to get some kind of a defender in front of the king, because this is now our main target, the pawn on f6, but queen to h6 is again winning the game. Rook to g8 is a possibility, but again, knight to g5, here we could play. Black would be forced to give up the rook for the exchange, h takes g5, and now bringing another rook is also a possibility. But now rook to e4, again this very important rook lift with some dangerous attacks. Okay, black could try to counterplay with rook to g6, but now queen to f8, rook to g8, and now queen to c5 wins again the game. I think we can in the next move also take out this pawn, include our other rook into the game, and again it would be game over. So tricky stuff here prepared by Bobby FIscher. Bishop to f6, here queen to e8, trying to get the queen into the defense, but now knight to e4, we have a g6, and now queen to g5, bringing the queen on the same file like the king. Now the main tactical idea is to play the move h5. Knight takes e4, we have rook takes e4, and now comes c4, and now h5. Already advancing here on the king side. This is now really dangerous position. The main idea is also to play queen to h6, but queen to h6 is not so dangerous anymore because it can always be met with queen to f8, so far it's defendable. But here comes, after c takes d3, here comes now the move rook to h4 with the preparation to play h takes g6, and now if you recapture with this h pawn, then you get checkmated on h8. So that's why rook to a7, because now this doesn't bring you so much, because after h takes g6, black could make here the move f takes g6 and will at least defend somehow this h7 weakness, because there is also this threat. Let's see a possible mistake what black can make after this move rook to h4. So this wasn't played in the game, but let's see possible d takes c2 continuation. The main tactical threat is here now h takes g6. Let's imagine again f takes g6. You see h takes g6 is not a possibility. As I said, you get checkmated on h8. So after f takes g6, the main tactical threat is here this move rook to h7. So that's why it was very important for Myagmarsuren to include this rook into the defense on the 7th rank. Let's see a possible continuation. If you try the promotion to queen, then you get rook to c1, and now king to h2, simply escaping, not caring for this rook, but still we would have this attacking possibilities. After king to h7, we would have queen to h4, king to g8, and now black is going to be checkmated with a very nice bishop and queen checkmate here on g7. So rook to a7, a correct defensive move, and now comes this critical moment of the game. Here I want you to pause the video and try to find the best next move, try to find the Fischer move. As I said, this was really one of the best quiet moves in chess history. Simple improvement of the piece, simply also sort of a waiting move, because it's basically undefendable. All we want to do is include another attacker into the game, but how to do that? Here Bobby FIscher played the move bishop to g2. First of all, this bishop cannot compete on the light squares, because if we play something like bishop to g2, then you have cut off this 7th rank again, and you solve the problems after h takes g6, f takes g6, rook to h7 was this tactical threat. So not that this bishop is only preventing some bishop to b7 ideas, it also is creating a potential bishop to e4 possibility. So again, let's see, queen to f8 seems like a natural move by black to defend somehow, but you see this bishop to e4 idea is too much to handle, because now you could try maybe again this d takes c2 idea, but now after h takes g6, f takes g6, and now bishop takes g6, you see how this maneuver of the bishop is very important. H takes g6, and now rook to h8, after king to f7 you lose the queen, and now after rook takes f8 we can even try to grab this one. Still we can try queen to h6, queen to g7, again trying to checkmate black, and black is lost here. So bishop to g2, this was one of the best quiet moves in chess history. In the game d takes c2 was played, but now queen to h6, very important move. Queen to f8 was played, and now queen takes h7 by Bobby FIscher, sacrificing the queen in this position. Black resigned, but let's see the possible continuation. If you take the queen, king takes h7, but now you get this double check with the pawn and the rook, so you are forced to take the pawn with the king. King takes g6, and now bishop to e4 is checkmate, and it will be game over. So as said, after the move queen takes h7, Myagmarsuren realized this checkmate pattern that Bobby FIscher has prepared here and resigned the game. So great attack by Bobby, really great maneuvering move, great quiet move, bishop to g2. I'm not sure how many of us would see this move, because it seemed that maybe black has defended here. This move, rook to a7, was also a very nice defensive move, but Bobby FIscher, one of the best attackers, found this improvement of the position of the piece and crushed his opponent in this beautiful check game. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this game. Meanwhile, you can watch my other best chess games of all time. If you want to see more Bobby FIscher, Mikhail Tal, Kasparov, Magnus Carlsen games, and many more. And you can also watch my commented chess games played by computer with some Alpha Zero, Lila Zero, Stockfish games, and many more. And you can also subscribe to my channel if you like this content. Thanks you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.